My whole life is spent trying to get people to name their children or their pets after me. Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. I'm really excited for you guys to be here. I'm just so excited. I've got a great conversation that I just had with Stacey. She is a wonderful listener and someone I've actually met in person, which is rare. I know you've the past few episodes have been some people that I've met in person, but we talk about that, so don't worry. It's all good. We talk about education, the DMV, we talk about twinning. She's just got the most awesome stories. We also talk a little bit about plantain chips, as well as much, much more. So hold on tight. This one's going to be awesome. But before we start the episode, this episode is not sponsored by any furry friends this week. So, but you know what? Well, don't worry about it. Well, I'll let you guys listen anyways. But if you've been thinking about supporting the Joyspiracy Theory, I've got something for you to know. My friend, co-host, and gymnastics partner, Gans Shimura, you may have heard of him from the YouTube channel called Face Like the Sun, or a little show called Canary Cry Radio, or another little show called Canary Cry News Talk. Yeah, that's the one. He recently had a little baby, and I forced him to sit down with me for a little bit of time on the old Skype machine and just talk about his experience so far. And, you know, it's really interesting. Some people may know him as Grumpy Gons, but this whole baby thing is really having an effect. So it's really just a great conversation between two pals talking about babies. Two grown men sitting down talking about babies. I give him some fantastic advice. He gives me some warnings. But it's a really, actually, real earnestly, it's a very special conversation that I'm very happy to have been able to have with him. And lucky for you, we recorded it. And it's going to be available as a bonus content for the Patreon supporters. So if you sign up for just $5 a month, not only can your furry friend, scaly friend, feathery friend sponsor one of the Joyspiracy Theory episodes, but you will get exclusive access to this awesome conversation. And I really hope you guys enjoy that. So you can head over to patreon.com/thejoyspiracy theory and show some love. Here's the episode. Let's go. Hello?
Stacey K.
There she is.
Basil?
How are you, Stacey?
Hi. I'm good. How are you, Basil?
I am so good, and I'm even better now that we finally got to connect, finally got on the line. But before I tell that whole story, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for laughter.
Hey, there you go. That was a good one.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've listened to the show before, and you knew that question was coming, because I'm always surprised when people don't have something ready. I'm not accusing you of preparing or scripting your answer, but you get what I'm saying.
Oh, totally. I totally, I might have thought about a couple of different potential answers to have ready, but that was definitely the winning answer.
But that's the one that came out. So good, yeah. Good. Yeah. Glad to hear it. Now, just a little bit of background for the listeners. I flaked is a strong word, but some might say that we have had, I think, 2 conversations scheduled now.
Yes.
And this is the 3rd one, and both of those I just didn't show up for. So I just want to take this public opportunity to apologize to you for that. Do you forgive me?
Totally forgive you, Basil.
Thank you. And the kicker, the punchline to this whole thing is we were having a conversation about when to schedule this conversation. And it sort of ended with you saying, like, how about Wednesday? And I'm like, nothing. I didn't answer. I didn't answer you, but I put on my calendar Stacey interview Wednesday, but just never confirmed. But we did it. We made it happen. We're here.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes. Now, at the risk of me talking too much, I'm going to allow you to tell the story of how we actually met in person. You're one of the few people who we have met in person.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you say that? And I'll jump in if you're not making it sound extraordinary enough.
Okay. Well, a previous person who has been on the show by the name of Kelsey Ulrich and
Yes.
we were roommates, and Kelsey and I and another one of our friends decided that we wanted to go to the Prophecy Watchers conference in July, this past July, in good old, fabulous Colorado. And we were also going to have one of our pastors come, and he bought his ticket. Everything was prepped and ready for him to come. And then last minute, he wasn't able to come anymore. And Kelsey was like, how awesome would it be if I could maybe, try to see if maybe Basil wants to go, And so she got in contact with you. She was able to give you your ticket, and you met us there. And I mean, my favorite part of meeting you, Basil, is when we went out for Mexican food together.
Yep, Mexican
that was pretty
food.
Awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
And we got a chance to get to know each other a little bit. And I'm going to refer to that conversation because that is where you let me in on just the most amazing thing I've ever heard. But we can save that for later. I'm not trying to focus on that, but we'll talk. We're certainly going to mention that.
Okay.
Yes. And now I know what a lot of the listeners are thinking. Nobody's actually complained about this, but I guess maybe I'm just a little self-conscious about it. Most of the people who have been listener interviewees, since I've started sort of this new direction, have all been people that I've met before or talked to before. You and Kelsey and Nikolai being the maybe the only people in the world that I've met in person. But I just want to put it out there. It just sort of happened this way. You guys were the most, you put the most work into actually scheduling these things. And also it makes, this was a new direction. I was kind of scared to just start chatting with strangers, and you guys are kind of my test run. So it's going fantastic.
Yes, I agree. It's going great. Yeah.
How have you enjoyed the new direction so far?
I have enjoyed it a lot.
Although 2 of the 3 have been personal friends of yours, so.
So it's been pretty awesome. I mean, I love listening to Kelsey. I mean, she's one of my closest friends. So I'm really enjoying that. I haven't gotten to Nikolai's yet, but I definitely, it's in my queue. I'm ready to listen to it when I have some free time. So I'm definitely enjoying it.
Okay, good. All right. So I think that gets it all out of the way.
So.
Yes. So where do you don't have to give me your exact address, but what part of the world are you living in right now?
I live in Santa Rosa, California, which is about 45 minutes north of San Francisco.
Okay. So that's where you and Kelsey met. Now, she told some stories about the Bohemian Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious. Did you have any experiences with that?
No. I mean, I don't know if this is a question that you'll ask me later in the interview, but Kelsey is actually the person who kind of helped me become, awake. And one of the very first things that her and I actually talked about was the Bohemian Grove. And we actually watched the documentary with Alex Jones, right? He has a documentary.
Right. His I would say that is his most important work. I'm not, I mean, I know him. I'm not a huge Jones head, as I believe they're called. But yes, his Bohemian Grove is sort of his boots on the ground investigation, which was pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, and so I mean, so one of my very first experiences with all of this kind of knowledge was first night we talked about it, we watched that documentary, and I personally haven't had any experience. I've never been there. I've heard stories. What's really interesting to me is I work with young adults who are getting their high school diploma, and we were talking about the Bohemian Grove at school, and one of my youth was like talking about, he was like, oh yeah, that's that crazy place where all of, like, the politicians go, and they do crazy like sacrifices, and they worship the big owl and all of these things. And I was just like, my jaw dropped that he was talking about all of these things. I wanted to be like, how do you know all of this information? But
Those kids,
apparently
man, those kids
those
are on
kids,
the level.
they are. YouTube, I mean, it tells you everything now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So yeah, so that's now that okay. So let's start there. The
Okay.
moment when people sort of wake up to a lot of the truths about the world, a lot of the truths, and I'll even mix in there, like I'm totally willing to accept that, like, maybe a lot of the conspiracy theory stuff, if not all of it, but like certain points maybe not right on the money. But
Hmm.
as you were sort of waking up to this, sounds like Kelsey was your kind of guide, your spirit guide through that. Maybe that's the wrong term to use considering everything, but she sort of helped you wake up. How did that happen exactly, and then what was it like?
I've been trying to replay this evening, like, in my brain, and all I remember was Kelsey and I and one of our other roommates were about to watch a movie, Bridesmaids to be exact.
Funny
And
movie.
yeah, totally funny. And I'm not sure like how we got onto the topic of the Illuminati, but we started talking about that. And at this point for me, I was going through a lot of spiritual kind of like warfare, I guess. Like, I was experiencing some sleep paralysis at night. And so
Mm.
overall in my life, I was just I had this sense of fear like all the time. I wasn't sleeping well, and so I was just struggling spiritually. And so then to have this conversation with Kelsey about the Illuminati, like, kind of almost gave me like even more fear about everything. And so we watched that documentary. I started doing some of my own research. I can't remember the exact title, but it's the New World Order book by Andrew Hoffman.
Yep.
So I read that, and just listening to you and Gons on Canary Cry Radio, like, things for me just started to make just a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I just, I occasionally have still some of that fear, but I definitely feel like it's gone. Like, I don't have as much fear. And Kelsey was also just really helpful in that she was always like, why do we have to fear? Like, we believe in the God of the universe who loves us, and we shouldn't be fearful about any of these things. And so she was definitely helpful to like help me open my eyes, but was also really helpful in like, calming me down when I was freaking out about
Yeah,
things. And
it's I'm kind of jealous that you had like a good friend there to help you through that. And
hmm
I think this is an interesting it's an interesting experience that you had, because I don't know what everybody's experience was, but I know that a lot of people kind of go through it themselves thanks to the internet. Like, we can do all of this research and kind of go down these rabbit holes ourselves, and like, first we're just scared to talk to other people about it, and like,
hmm
we're trying to figure it out ourselves. And I think that really leads to a lot of the emotional darkness that can come from that, not having especially a good friend, kind of going through it with us. I gotta say, your experience about like getting ready to watch a movie and then just getting totally sidetracked and it taking up the rest of your night, that is how it happens all the time for me. I IRL, as the kids say, in real life. I don't run around trying to convince people about the Illuminati or UFOs or whatever, ghosts or anything. but whenever it comes up, it's always starts somewhere in the late evening and goes just forever. And I think there's something about the late nightness that really people feel safe that they can get into talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, well, I mean, we don't have any interruptions except maybe we're not going to go to sleep tonight.
I got
Like,
nothing else to do.
exactly. Might as well go down some crazy rabbit trail and see, what I can find out tonight.
Yeah. Now we're going to continue with the story, but I want to ask about your sleep paralysis stuff
Hmm.
because I'm sure I've said it many times. Sleep paralysis was that's like a huge part of my life as a younger kid. I was getting all sorts of sleep paralysis, all sorts of weird stuff happening, and it's just nice to know other people are going through it. And B, I came to a place where I was able to kind of overcome it in a more permanent way. But how did that start for you? When did it first start?
So I when I moved in with Kelsey and we moved into this really big house with, there were seven of us. I moved into this house with other Christian girls, and it kind of was like finally in my life I was taking my relationship with the Lord seriously.
Yeah.
Before that I had been living with non-believers and just I finally was able to see what it's like to be in Christian community and to see people reading their Bibles and praying. And I finally, I kept praying and telling the Lord, like, Lord, I want a deeper relationship with you. And I told him, I was like, okay, like I'm going to start reading the Bible more. I'm going to start taking this seriously. And as soon as I did that, I started having hearing a lot of like crazy noises at night that would wake me up, and I would
Mm,
wake up just like super afraid. And then I had it in our house. I had it two times, but the first time I had it, it was enough to like completely just scare me. And I would say it happened. It actually happened like the week of Thanksgiving in 2014. It was like a Sunday night, and I just remember being just completely like afraid. And I knew that if I called out to Jesus that it would break. And so I did. And immediately I called Kelsey because she's my she's my close friend. And so
BFFs.
she came down from her room, and she was like, oh, man, I'm so glad I came here. And she was like, she told me that she could feel the darkness like
Whoa.
as she was like entering into like where my room was. And so that was really scary for me. I had a really hard time sleeping for a while, and a person who was actually really helpful for me was Nikolai.
Yeah.
I went over to his house and he showed me Chris White's video on sleep paralysis, and that was very helpful for me. And he came over to our house and he prayed over it and things like that. And for me, it was just like the Lord wanted me to trust him even in my sleep,
Yeah.
which I tell people that I'm like, the Lord wants you to trust him. Like when you sleep, like you are completely unconscious.
It's kind of
Like
the ultimate trust fall,
exactly, totally ultimate trust fall. And so,
falling asleep.
it took me a really long time to just trust the Lord, and just praying at night and just waking up and just like calling out to him and praying. And I would say it took about 2 to 3 months for me to really feel safe and secure sleeping in my own room by myself. But
Yeah.
the Lord completely redeemed it. I love sleeping now. I don't know what
So
I would do without it.
So real quick, there's a lot of people out there. I think more people experience sleep paralysis than we would suspect. But I'm
Mhm.
sure there's a lot of people who, maybe they've heard of sleep paralysis, maybe they've watched a video or read about it or something like that. But why don't you? I mean, I don't want to trigger anything here, but if you could help somebody understand what sleep paralysis is like and what it feels like and
Mhm.
and just how scary it is.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that for a little bit just to help people understand?
Yeah. So sleep paralysis is the feeling that you have where you are you cannot move at all whatsoever, but you open your eyes and you can see around you, but you cannot speak and you cannot move your body at all whatsoever. Even if you like try to fight it, there is no way for you to you can't speak, you can't move, you are completely frozen in that state.
Right.
And it's really scary because you can't move, and you try and you want to fight and you want to get up and you want to scream and you want to do all these things, but you can't. And it's I mean, it's completely terrifying
Yeah.
because
The
it's just
the terror too. Like it's this it's like this it's really a fear that I've never felt before. Like the fear that you feel in sleep paralysis is so much more than any fear I could have imagined beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have never felt that fear, that level of fear ever before in my whole life. And it's just, I mean, I'm 29 years old and I was completely terrified. So
Yeah.
very scary.
Now, here's my question for you. Have you ever seen anything in sleep paralysis or heard anything?
I didn't hear anything. I did see maybe like a flashing light by my window. So I'm not 100% sure what that was.
Oh, you're going to set the UFO people off right now with that. Are you?
Yes, that's what I always wanted.
So just because I want to share, I don't know if I've shared this in a recording. I may have, but I've had sleep paralysis and a lot of weird attacks, a lot of manifested spiritual attacks during my life. But during some of these sleep paralysis experiences, I thank God I haven't had these experiences in a number of years. But during these sleep paralysis experiences, it was crazy. One night in college, I had two. It sounds kind of corny. I'm going to say these words. It sounds corny, but I have no better way to explain it. But they were two like hellhounds circling my bed, and I could see them visibly. And I was paralyzed, couldn't move, couldn't talk. I'm in a room with three other dudes. This is my dorm room in college, and it was just like these big black dogs who were like rotting and skeletal and weird. That was a scary one. And another one, there was like I woke up, but sleep paralysis style, and there's like I'd say 8 to 9 foot dark person standing at the foot of my bed. That was a spooky one. And then another time, I don't know whether it be in the spirit or in my body, but I felt myself lifting off of the bed. And then suddenly I was staring at the ceiling as if I was an inch away from it, and then dropped back down onto my bed. That was a creepy one. Yeah. And then a lot of times, like feeling like being pushed around almost. I don't know. It's really weird. And I know this is kind of a scary topic, but I promise everybody is going to get more fun. But yeah, no, I mean, I've always kind of felt that might have been an extreme case. And one time I heard something whisper in my ear, and I have no explanation for this, Stacey, so I don't know. Maybe you can help me out. But I heard a woman's voice whisper in my ear, and it just said, "It's so cold." And then suddenly sleep paralysis and like electrocution through my body.
That is terrifying.
Yes. So, but I will say this, every time, as hard as it is to speak during this experience, you just keep trying. And as soon as you get out the name of Jesus, stops instantly.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like that is the number one weapon.
Yeah.
So
totally.
If anybody out there is experiencing that, just keep that in mind. Trust me, I have had a lot of experiences with this. The name of Jesus always stops it.
Yes, totally. It's such relief when it happens. You're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. It's just such a testimony to the power of the name of Jesus, of who Jesus is. So
yeah.
awesome.
There you go. Amen. those sleep paralysis 101, everybody. So just keep that in your pocket. Okay, so you had this wonderful experience where you had like a BFF going, how long had she been kind of awake to a lot of this stuff when she was helping you out?
I mean, I believe she was awake for a really long time. And I know like one of the things that she had mentioned to me was that she really wanted to be able to share this part of who she was with me, but she felt she couldn't because I, at the time, was somebody who was super gung ho about wanting to, work in the government or work for like, particularly, I really wanted to work for the United Nations. I
Oh
have like some
boy.
background doing like research and stuff with that. And so she was like, I didn't want to tell you because I knew how passionate and how interested you were in working with that. But I'm so glad that she told me. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely changed my path. And I don't have the desires to really want to do that anymore. But, I mean, if the Lord calls me to that, I would totally do it. But it's just,
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna
brought all of
say,
this to a new light. So,
I'm glad that you woke up to those things and it changed your mind. However, it would be really cool if you were my inside girl to the UN and you could just come back and report anonymously.
I would love that.
You
That would
need to
be a
work your way up to the highest levels. And while you're at it, you might as well just join the Masons, join the Illuminati, just make it to the top, keep us all posted on what's going on.
all right. I mean, I've always wanted to be the next Kofi Annan, so
Yeah, there you go.
I'll work on it.
There you go. Okay, so you had this great experience. Okay, I keep calling it great because it sounds nice to me, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But so you have this experience. You're waking up to this stuff. Kelsey's helping you through it.
Mm-hmm.
Take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, what Kelsey and I would do, and so I would say for about 5 months, I would listen to things, and I mean, Kelsey at this point was the only person who I could talk to about these things, so I would always go to her with like questions and things like that. And then I would say, I think it was June of 2015, my now friend Haley, she becomes awake through Kelsey and I. And, so it was just kind of like, for a while we had a little podcast group. We called it the Gospel Gals.
Nice. Gospel Gals. That's like a
Yeah.
podcast on its own.
In a dream world, one day the three of us will have our own podcast. And we would just we would just listen to different podcasts. We started getting into Justin Fall, listening to, you and Gons, listening to the Sharpening Report, and just coming together and just sharing what it is that we were learning together. Currently I don't have Kelsey, as with me anymore, but I do have Haley who still lives with me. So her and I a lot of times will, talk about current events, and we're both reading the book of Daniel at a Bible study. So we talk about that. Like it's still going. It's still going. That's what I got.
Still going. That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now, we're getting into it real fast here. So that's great. Maybe we can just plow through it and then talk about cats for the rest of the podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, okay, good. Thank you for that reaction. We're definitely going to do that. So, part of the reason for starting this podcast was to really explore sort of what it's like emotionally when you're waking up to this stuff. Because a lot of the focus to learning about the different, what you'd call conspiracy theories, or the more intense kind of Bible prophecy stuff and how that's interacting with the world today, a lot of times it can lead into some, kind of rocky emotional spaces. Did you experience anything like this?
I did. I mean, from the beginning, I definitely had a lot of moments of fear. And then it would kind of like come and go. I would be like, oh, that's not that scary of a topic. Or I would listen. I'm trying to think of something that's really, really, really scary.
Well, Well, you were planning. I mean, you were planning to do UN stuff. You were going to get into government, and this kind of threw a little wrench in your career plans and maybe, I don't know, your life plans. Was there a moment? Did you have to like kind of mourn that passion you had in your life, or was it quick? Was it immediate? Did you kind of have to work through stuff? How did that go?
I think I had to kind of work through things because, when I was learning all of this information, I was in grad school, and so I was learning a lot about, I have a master's in international and multicultural education, and so, we learn a lot about what it is that the UN is doing for, the whole world in terms of education, and so it really took me like a while to kind of like reverse some of that thinking. um, so I mean,
Or at
I
least, like, that they're not the as benevolent as they might come off.
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely been something that's it took me like I would say like a good 6 months to really try to understand, what their purpose really is. And I would say a person who was really helpful for me with that was Carl Teichribb,
Mm-hmm.
who
Yep.
he was at the Prophecy Watchers conference, and he spoke about his new book that's coming out, about the UN and their plans. And and then you learn. I remember talking to Isa, the End Times Mama, and she would tell me so much about like Maria Montessori and how that ties into things. And I just was like, yeah. So I feel like I got a lot of information thrown at me really quickly,
Yeah.
but all of it made total sense to me. It all fit. Like I had no doubts about anything that I was learning.
That's interesting. So when you were like kind of looking back through your, I mean, not only was this like a change in career path and maybe a change in passion, but it was also like you you had some serious financial investment into this career
Yes.
path you had.
Yes, I did. I mean, I still, I totally love education. My dream one day is to get a doctorate in education, so that maybe I could, maybe work really closely with some of these things. Um, but yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of derailed me a little bit. My dream of working for the UN ended quickly, but I mean, I love the career I have right now, and I'm really intrigued to see where the Lord takes it.
Good. So it was a process you had to go through, but it sounds like you came out the other side okay.
I did, yeah.
Now, did it, I mean, were there times we a lot of times when you're a young person going through school with a career path, your parents can be quite proud of such an ambitious goal. Did you, when you told them, first of all, have you told them? And second of all, did you have to explain that, the UN is not necessarily your dream because you don't want to be part of a global conspiracy to bring about the end times?
So, my parents and I like were not super close, and so like me going to grad school was a decision that I made completely on my own. They had no financial buy-in to my education at all.
You
And
go,
so
girl.
yeah, I'm an independent woman. It's
Independent
2000.
woman.
So I didn't have to tell them really anything about my change in plans or anything like that. So I don't think I actually, when I started grad school, I didn't really necessarily go into it with the intent of like, oh, I'm going to work for the UN. I was just super open to whatever the Lord was going to lead me to do, I would do.
Yeah.
And he definitely has led me into more of having just a domestic focus on education and impacting it, even in the city that I live in right now. So yeah, I'm glad that he changed it around because I'm really happy with it. So
Nice. Now, it sounds like, at least so far, it was kind of more focused on the government conspiracy type stuff. I mean,
mhm.
did you buy into that all the Nephilim stuff right away, or or was that sort of like secondary or tertiary?
That was one of the things that took some time. I would say, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's been like my interests have gone in and out. Like sometimes I'm super interested in learning more about the government and the Illuminati. Sometimes I'm really intrigued by like the spiritual aspects of things. And the Nephilim was, that's a completely different narrative that was brand new to me. So I mean that one's definitely taken me some time. Like I've tried to read Gary Wayne's The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and
Yeah.
it's has so much information in it, and it's a wonderful book, but it's very difficult for me to wrap my mind around all of that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, and it's, I totally get it. It's funny because this community that we're both a part of, there's so many different aspects of it that are considerably different in theme, but
Hmm.
there's been some great academics and researchers who have started connecting the dots, and it really all does make sense. But yeah, it's one thing to think like, oh, a bunch of human beings are conspiring to globalize everything in order to control the populace, but then you
Hmm.
start adding in giant half angels being genetically modified in government labs in order to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I guess you kind of have to shift gears a little bit to to get into that.
Well, it's difficult because it's something like the government and like some of that spiritual stuff. Those are, that's like very tangible and very real right now.
Yeah,
And like the Nephilim, like aliens hiding inside of the hollow earth, it's like, I don't know, it's just, I've never seen a UFO. I've
yeah.
never, I've never had that experience. And so it's really difficult for me to relate to those kinds of things. So I mean, I'm interested. I enjoy learning about them, but a lot of times it's hard for me to like it's kind of how does that affect me right now in my life?
Did you
Kind of.
have did you have a time when this stuff kind of fully engulfed your mind space for a period of time?
Yes. I would say the first year, that was when it completely engulfed me, which was also when I was in grad school. So I had,
That makes it fun.
what do you want to do? Do you want to go, read this document about education in El Salvador, or do you want to listen to Canary Cry's new episode? Like,
That
I
is
had,
that's a hard choice.
it was a really hard choice.
All right. So, but it seems like you've got a good head on your shoulders nowadays, which is good to hear.
Yeah, totally. I definitely feel like
Yeah,
I'm pretty
totally.
solid.
I've
Yeah.
got a great head on my shoulders, and I've got great hair thanks to Head and Shoulders.
I do not use Head and Shoulders. I am not flaky, okay?
Well, neither am I because I use Head and Shoulders. This podcast sponsored by Head and Shoulders. Um, no, it's not sponsored by Head and Shoulders. Please head over to patreon.com/the Joyce Pearcy Theory because that's the only thing keeping us alive here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, oopsies. Monty jumped up. Say hello, Monty. No? Okay. Um,
Meow.
yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry. Where were we? These cats are always distracting me. Don't you hate that when you're just so distracted by cats?
Yep. And you're like, you have like a party at your house, and you're just like, I just want to play with my
I
cat.
just want to pet this cat for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you did have a time when you felt the just the fog, the haze of this stuff all around you for a while, and you're in grad school. Did you ever try to like, I don't know, did you ever like in class, in United Nations class 101, did you ever like try to share this with anybody or bring up concerns or anything like that? Not even just to professors, although that would be awesome. But just to like anyone. Were you one of those sharers?
I was not. I definitely kept a lot of this to myself because I just had a lot of fear of this is all like super brand new to me. Like I haven't completely wrapped my mind around all of this, so I never really spoke out about it to anyone. Sometimes I wish that I could go back to grad school and do it all over again, and
Why?
like and just yes, I love school. Anyway, I would love to go back and try to see if there could be like a crossover from of information.
Yeah.
Um, so one day maybe I'll come out with my own scholarly articles.
Yeah, I was gonna say you you're highly educated now. Now you need to start contributing, Stacey. This whole podcast, it's been a sting operation to get you to start producing material.
I will do that. Yeah, gladly.
Okay, great. Um, I mean, looking back, and excuse me if it sounds like I'm reaching, but looking back through your education, were there any dots that you like could kind of connect, knowing what you know now, just from what you were learning? I mean, because I know a guy who is in the medical field, and during his education, I don't know if it was in a class or what exactly it was, but the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the vaccinations and things like that, and all kind of the nonsense going on with that around the world, with the harmful vaccines. He was telling me how like he looked back and there were clues all along the way. They were just kind of presented to him in a way that, it kind of just was from a total, the more acceptable perspective. But when he sort of shifted his perspective, he could see a lot of shady business going on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you experience anything like that?
I don't think so.
I know your stuff was in education, so maybe it's a little bit different. But education, that's how you that's how you brainwash the children.
Exactly. No, I feel like if anything that I really got from my grad school experience is that so the premise of the program that I went to was, talking about why the world, like why all of these gaps exist, specifically for like minority students, for example.
Interesting.
And so, I think a lot of times, like, I'm a white female, and a lot of times the narrative that was taught was that, white people are, I might be opening a huge door right now, but that white people are the cause of just so much pain for so many people.
Right.
And, and so it was just difficult for me because a lot of times, like, what I would hear was just like this narrative of like division amongst people.
Right.
And, and of course, right now we're seeing huge division among people, specifically in our nation and among races and things like that. So I saw and researched a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
so they were like grooming you to be the next social justice warrior movement leader.
Exactly. I mean, I went to University of San Francisco, which first of all, Jesuit institution, but secondly, social justice is like is everything to them. So they were really grooming me, like you said, to be a social justice warrior, princess ninja. And so I learned a lot about. I would say, yeah, I learned a lot about that. And then the other thing too is, specifically with a lot of international governmental organizations, is I feel like I learned how ineffective they actually are, and how, they have an agenda and they want to get these things done. But at the same time, it's like, they're not, I don't know. That's like the part that always confuses me is like, from what I've seen, I don't know how effective they're actually going to be with their agenda. But at the same time, we learn like what their plans are and how they want to take over the world by 2030 or whatever. And it's like, really? Because I don't think that they can do it.
It's funny you say that. Because a lot of the defense against like these conspiracy theories are like, bro, the DMV takes me 7 hours to just like turn in a form. There's no way that this clunky organization has the wherewithal to take over the world.
Yeah.
And if any of the organizations in the government were going to take over the world, I think the DMV would be number one.
Oh, totally.
They're just inherently evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, taking bad pictures of us.
I know. Oh gosh. Okay. Never mind. Not going to go down that train. go down that train. That's totally a real thing to say. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. I mean, so it seems like there was a part of you that was like, it's almost like you learned that at least some of these organizations are just incapable of accomplishing their goal.
Yeah. They at least maybe. I don't know. I mean, from just like even just something simple like education. I mean, I guess education is not that simple, but just certain things, it's just like you can't even you're an organization that's trying to promote peace and people should respect each other and all of these things, and it's like you're kind of doing a terrible job of that, which I guess I mean, hey, if part of their agenda, I mean, they want to unite people, and it's like you can't even do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The education system, it's a really interesting situation when I look at it because, yeah, it's pretty well known now that just the public education systems around the world they're designed around a concept to make good worker bees. I mean, that's what they're for. They're there to create drones in the society to, that obviously think for their own and have families and have a good life. But they are drones to keep the system going. And, but on the other hand, not everybody can be homeschooled. I mean, what do you even do with that? Like, what is the solution? I don't know if there is one, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But just to get a little heady, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, that's a really great question. So I actually work for a program right now that I personally really I like the method of everything. And I mean it's just high school, so I know, we're missing maybe like a huge chunk of a child's education, but the school that I work for right now is actually an independent charter school. And the thing that I like is the teacher can teach basically whatever she wants to teach them as long as it can fit along a certain subject line. So, like, let's throw out an example. Like, she had all of the students do a research project on
The
the like
Illuminati.
that would be epic. She had them do a research project on all of the executive orders that have been, recently passed or like, yeah, passed with Trump.
Yeah.
And, and for the students, it's like, okay, well, they can do those things and they can do it either and try to get English credit or social studies credit or whatever. But, they're learning about these things and they can kind of formulate their own opinions and ideas about them. It's not like she's, indoctrinating them and saying, like, here's what you need to think about all of these executive.
Right.
Like, let's go and read them and see what they say, answer some questions, do some discussion, like things like that, so they can walk away more with their own, like they came up with their own opinions about these things, and there's no real right or wrong answer. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, and I personally, the way you described it, it sounds like a good way to do it to me. Now, there's obviously going to be some discussion about, the subjectivity of anything when you start talking about it, subjectivity or objectivity, but that sounds way better than just sort of giving your child to someone during the day and just, here, you tell them things now. Now you
Exactly.
tell them how to think.
Yeah. I mean, for me, in an ideal, I've like thought a lot specifically about elementary education because I did work with K through 12 student or K through 6 students specifically, excuse me, for 4 years. And I would love to see a model where students could be with one teacher, the same teacher in the same classroom for an extended period of time,
That's
like
interesting.
2 to 3 years maybe,
Yeah.
just because I feel like then a teacher can really get to know that student and learn, here's what their challenges are, here's their strengths, and just, really get a chance to work with them and see them grow and develop and really be a part of their learning. And then maybe, I don't know, pass them off to another teacher who has them for 2 to 3 years or something like that, because I just feel like having, and when you're in elementary school, you have like 7 different teachers,
Yeah.
sometimes even more if you have like a helper in your class. And it's just like, how can any of these students like feel like they're actually known by anybody if they're just being handed off every year by a different person,
Right.
different.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting. That's
that's
an
a thought that, yeah.
yeah, no, I never had really thought that way. Are there any organizations that work that way that you know of?
No, none at all.
Huh. Huh. I wonder if there's a reason for that. Maybe because it's too good of an idea and they know that they won't be able to pump out slaves from the system. The
Exactly.
system, Stacy. We got to bring down the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring it down.
Bring it down. Bring it down, please. Um, okay, well, that's very interesting. I've never actually had any sort of extended conversation about these things. It's usually just headlines on Facebook.
Yeah.
Public school teacher beats up child with chair or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Or they're
know.
yelling at them or doing something, and you're just like,
Doing
ugh.
something wrong. You don't hear a lot of good stories, actually, now that I think about it. But okay, very interesting. And so as you move through the system, that's how you have to say it if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
As you move through that, what's your end goal here besides bringing down the system?
Well, I mean, currently the job that I have, I'm working with at-risk youth, and my job right now, I'm literally using it as like a way to gain experience and like just like knowledge about who they are and what it is that they need to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I don't know. I don't know how long the Lord's going to have me be at this job, but I really like it because again, I was working with elementary school age children, and I've had the job I have now for about 8 months, and it's just a completely different, I'm working with 16 to 24-year-olds. That's a little different than a little kindergartner, So
16 to 24. Oh yeah, because they're
yeah,
okay. Yeah, got
yeah.
it. Wow.
And so it's just, so I'm learning how to build relationships with them and just learn how to support them best. And so, for now, I kind of want to stick with this job. I do see going back to school pretty soon, like within the next 5 years. I would really like to get a doctorate in education, specifically to maybe work on policy.
Yeah.
That's been an interest of mine. Again, I do have an interest in politics, even though I don't know to what extent I'll go, but I do have an interest in like local politics to some extent and would like to, be on like the school board
Mm-hmm.
or city council maybe or something like that
There you
because
go.
I would really love to affect change,
There's
and I
some
feel like
Parks and Rec situations up in there.
oh, totally. Leslie Nope is if I if
More
I could
like
have one
Leslie
title.
Yep.
Yeah, she's yes, I am. She's who I would, she's my idol a little bit.
Now, here, I just had a thought, and you can tell me if this would work or not. I was kind of thinking, like, hey, how can we, like, get some kids to start waking up to the secrets of the world and get them listening to Canary Cry Radio, start them young. But if I was a teacher, I would find just amongst the flotsam and jetsam hanging on the wall, like right underneath the alphabet that is on the lining of the ceiling, but maybe right next to the poster of the kitty cat hanging from the branch saying hang in there, and then like a little bit to the side from the the whiteboard that has all the gold stars on it. I just put a little sign, maybe a little piece of paper, and just say, like, maybe free time activity. Google the Nephilim or Google the Trilateral Commission, and just not even never address it, never mention it, just have it there. Maybe change it every week, and just let the kids go hog wild on it. They're going to be on their phones anyways. They'll just see it once in a while, and if they bring it up, just be like, "Oh, we don't talk about that." but interesting. It sounds interesting. Maybe I'll try Googling that. Do you think that would work?
Well, the thing that's really interesting to me is that my students do talk about the Illuminati, and they do talk about, there's that one student who was talking about the Bohemian Grove, and I remember they did an alien project, and I remember talking with one of my youth and being like, like, what do you really think about that? And he was like, I think it's totally a government conspiracy. I think they're hiding them from
Whoa.
things. And I was just like, what? Like, you think you? Like, and I just was like, oh, I totally agree with you, so
There's just
they
an
do have,
underground child militia preparing to bring down the system.
oh, totally. I'm preparing all of them. But so they do have it. They have thought of some of these things, and so I don't have to create an extra credit or free time board because it's already out there, Basil.
Yeah, no, that sounds. Yeah, my idea was completely superfluous, apparently. We forget
No,
that these kids have the internet already and are already learning everything there is to learn.
It's true. No, it was a great idea. Maybe I could try with like elementary school children, but instead of like the Trilateral Commission, it could be like, I don't know, what's something.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of something a little bit less intense, but it's kind of, I'm not coming up with anything.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
think about it.
Okay.
We'll come back.
Yeah, just work with it. So, okay, now I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because we're coming up on an hour already. This is crazy.
Oh, crazy.
Okay, so when we were eating Mexican food, munching on some delicious nachos and wet burritos, and you mentioned a story to me that I just kind of thought, A, is the most extraordinary story that never happens in real life, and B, had a little M. Night Shyamalan twist in it that I even loved even more than anything. So I don't even want to tell it. I want you to tell it.
You want me to tell it?
I think. Are you comfortable with that? I don't want to push you into anything.
Oh, you are not pushing me into it. I was totally preparing for this to happen. So
okay. All right. Okay.
So, for all of the listeners, when I was a baby, still in my mother's womb, my parents found out that I was a twin, and they found out very late in my mother's pregnancy that she was having twins, and my parents came to the realization that they couldn't keep both of their children, and so they had to make the hard decision of having one of the children go up for adoption. So when I was born, my sister came out of my mother's womb first, and she was sent to another hospital where her parents were waiting for her, and I stayed behind with my parents. And for my whole life, I did not know that I had had a twin. It was always kind of like a speculation that I had because twins are a hereditary gene, and my grandfather was a twin. I have an aunt who also had twins, and so I just kind of always had in the back of my mind, like, it would be great if I was a twin. That would be awesome. So I'm 23 years old, and I go to visit my grandmother in Florida, my sweet grandmother, and she, pulled me aside. Just her and I were hanging out, and she asked me if anyone in my family had ever mentioned to me that I was a twin. And
leave it to grandma to just like blow the top off of a 23-year-old conspiracy and just with no regard. Just
exactly. Yep.
Wow.
She had no fear like everybody else in my family. Just, they knew, but I don't know if it was because they were trying to protect me or what it was, but none of them, they never told me. And so my grandma, she told me that when I was born, she got a phone call from an adoption agency, and she was like super confused by it. And so she talked to my father, and my father, shared with them that yes, I am a twin, but the story they told was that my sister was extremely unhealthy and
Uh-huh.
they couldn't keep her because they were like, it's going to be tons of medical bills.
That's
We
what
just
they were
can't,
telling
can't do
grandma?
it. That's what they told my grandparents. Yeah.
Oh.
And so my grandmother shared this information with me, and so I was like, if I have a sister out there, like I need to figure this out. I need to put my research skills to good use. I need to really try to figure this out.
Now, I have a
So
question and I want you to
yeah,
answer as truthfully as possible.
yes.
Okay, when you found out you had a twin, did you close your eyes really, really tight, put your fingers up to your temples, and try to communicate with her with twin telepathic connection? Like, was
I
that the first thing you tried? And if not, I don't believe you.
It was not. My jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Maybe her jaw dropped at the same time.
What were the first thoughts going through your head when you heard this? Like, did you
I
believe her or
I did. My grandmother has been a reliable source of information for me. And so
she's a good
she's a solid.
Yeah, okay.
I cried. Like I was just, I was definitely in shock. But I also feel just the kind of person I am is like when somebody tells me something like that, it's like I need to do something about it like immediately. Like I need an answer like right now.
Yeah.
Um, and also too, maybe just like a little backstory for listeners that might be questioning like why didn't you just call your parents and ask them about this? I don't really communicate with my parents anymore. We don't really have a relationship, and so that wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to go to other family members and start sharing this information. So I popped up on the internet and I tried to kind of figure out what can I do to like get in contact with her, find out if this is real, and basically did everything that I could. And because it was a closed adoption, there was nothing that I could do at all.
Yeah.
Any request form I sent, there was absolutely nothing I could do.
D-
So I just, sorry.
I enjoy the way you're telling this and blasting through it, but I just am so curious because, like you said, it was a pretty dramatic thing learning about this. I imagine it kind of feels like the world turns upside down and that everybody's been keeping a secret from you, or, that it's just, especially a twin, much less just a sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of roadblocks, but you just keep going. Like when you learn that it's a closed adoption, I mean, to a lot of people, that's like, oh, okay, there's a system. There's literally a bureaucratic system that has been built to keep me away from my twin sister.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I definitely had, a little bit of anger, like why can't, and that's something that I kind of still hold on to this day is like, why doesn't anybody ever tell me anything? Like, I'm a strong person, like you can share things with me and I'm not gonna get hurt or upset. Like I want to know. Um, and I mean, yeah, I feel like what actually really kind of, I tried and what actually I stopped trying to really put a lot of like thought and things into it was because my grandma made it seem like my sister was so unhealthy. In my mind, I'm like, well, how unhealthy is she? Like, is she a functioning adult? Like, is it worth it for
Oh
me to,
yeah, I didn't even consider that. Like
yeah.
maybe, who knows? You don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe, and I'm tempted to make a joke here, but I'm not going to make a joke about a sick baby. But it could be anything.
hmm So I just kind of, and I feel like maybe this was a little bit of the Lord, like maybe protecting me or just kind of telling me to stop. But it like when I returned home after, like I thought about it for a little while. I talked to one of my friends about it and but it wasn't something that I put a whole lot of like focus or energy in and just kind of told the Lord to just, whatever his will is to just kind of take control. And so, I mean, I found out in the summer and, went, I don't know, like 8 months without any, not really thinking about it or anything like that. And what happened is I went to work. I went to a work meeting in a bagel shop. It was an out of office meeting,
Yeah.
obviously.
Did you work at a bagel shop and that's where the meeting was? You had to
No, it just
discuss whole sizes?
cream cheeses, things like that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And before I had gone to this meeting, like my boss had communicated with me that, in the main office, like I had received a letter. And I was just under the impression like it's going to be like something kind of cheesy, work related, like I'm getting some kind of certificate in the
Or
mail
a
or
Christmas card from your dentist?
yeah,
I
something like
love my
that.
Christmas cards from my dentist.
They're really smiley,
Yeah.
I don't oh yeah. And so I get to this bagel shop and I'm about to, sit down and somebody hands me this envelope and I open it and it's a letter from my sister.
What? Like,
Yeah.
you had not gotten in contact with her 8 months after you even learned that she exists, or
Mhm.
so, you get a letter from her.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. And it's
gosh.
crazy because we were basically like looking for one another at the same time. So when I found out this information and was trying to do research about her, she was doing, the same exact thing, like looking me up on Facebook and all of these things. And so I opened this letter and I read it and I freaked out. I like was crying. I was like, I think people in my meeting thought I just had opened like a death letter or something.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely just like super shocking information. And so it like took me it took me a couple of days to really like process what had happened, like what I was reading and like I just was like, wait, what? Like at first I was like, she's beautiful, like she's functioning, she's healthy, like this is not what I was expecting at all and I was in total shock.
Now, are you fraternal twins or whatever the other kind is?
There's actually three different kinds of twins,
Oh,
but
boy.
we're fraternal twins.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think I think I remember you showing me a picture, and you do look very much alike, right?
Mhm.
Or am I
We
making
do.
that up?
We definitely look like we're sisters. I'm brown haired, olive toned skin. My sister has blonde hair and like paler skin. So, I mean, we definitely like she took the Dutch side of everything and I took the Ukrainian Polish part of everything. So,
Nice.
we have some major differences, but we look like we're sisters.
Yeah. Now that's just my goodness. Now, just so I have a little timeline, had you learned about the Illuminati at this point?
No, I
Okay.
didn't get into that stuff until I was about 26,
Because
26.
that may have been a little bit too much for me to handle at one time.
Yeah, it's like I have a twin, the Illuminati, Nephilim. What? Like too much.
What is this world? Am I dreaming?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so she contacts you,
hmm
and then
And then, so in the letter that she gave me, she basically said, if you have any interest in wanting to contact me, like here is some information for you. And it was basically the adoption agency. And so I think I waited like 2 or 3 days and I was like, I
wait.
had some people, sorry, what?
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. She said if you'd like to get a hold of me, you can contact the adoption agency.
Yes, just because it wasn't like she didn't have like her address or anything. She used the adoption agency as a platform to to find me and to get a
Oh,
hold of me. Like she found me on LinkedIn and that's how they sent it to my work address just to
uh-huh.
kind of, keep it confidential.
Right.
Um, and so I emailed the adoption agency and said, hi, my name is Stacey. Like I received this letter from my sister whose name is Kim and I would love to get into contact with her. And so she gave me my sister's email and we emailed with one another, I would say, for about a month or two. And then we went from emailing to text messaging to talking on the phone. And then,
So you like took it slow. This wasn't like a Hollywood, you learn about each other and then you both get on flights and meet in Oklahoma somewhere and you have this meeting in the airport and eat bagels there. It's like this was a drawn out thing. Like what the
Yeah.
heck?
Well, I got this letter from her in March
Uh-huh.
of I think it was, I don't know, I was 24. I can't think of when that was.
Yeah.
But then in September of that same year, we met for our 25th birthday. And it was a Hollywood kind of like we met in the airport and she brought me flowers and, we were instant friends. So,
Oh, that's crazy. Okay,
yeah.
now this was something that I asked you at the time, which was, what is your relationship like now?
We have a really great relationship. I think we're both, we're really glad that we found each other and that we have one another, and we really want to, she lives in Chicago and I live all the way out in California, so we're not able to see each other often, but we really try out of any relationship we have, I would say within our family, we are both very important to one another and we're a priority. So yeah, I would say we have a really great relationship.
Didn't I'm making things up now. I thought I remembered something about like how you dressed similar, and I may just be thinking about a Radiolab episode.
So we had, I would say, for her specifically, when we were younger, a couple of the things that I think are really interesting is her best friend's name growing up was Stacey.
Oh yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. And her mom told me a story of when she was a baby, she really wanted to have a little baby. So she got her a baby, and like super weirdly, her mom named the baby Stacy.
Wow. Did she? And she didn't know.
She had no idea. So I
Wow.
thought things like that are just really interesting. And when I found out about her, I was doing AmeriCorps, and my sister was also doing AmeriCorps.
What?
So like just little things like that were
Yeah.
just really like that's so crazy. Like I remember reading the letter and her saying like, "Oh, I'm currently doing AmeriCorps in Montana," and I literally started bawling. I was like, "How is this possible? How are we so similar like this?" Like it blew my mind.
Yeah. That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I it was hard for me to finish that bean and cheese wet burrito because I was vegetarian, because it was such an amazing story. Now, here's the real question. Have you told your sister about the Illuminati?
I have not. Like I've tried to take it I try to ask her questions because she's really into the environment. And so I've asked her questions about like chemtrails, do you know what those are, and trying to,
Right.
explain what those are, and she was like, "No, no, no, those aren't
Yeah, I was
real."
going to say without thinking her twin is like a crazy person.
Exactly. I mean, I have like out of any person in my family, like I've shared like some pretty deep things with her, like especially with like the Lord and my relationship and what that means. Like I've shared like a lot with her about my life, and she's really open to things. I mean, she listens to me. She doesn't say, "Oh, you need to stop talking." Like she listens and asks questions, and I'm sure if I were to be like, "Hey, sister, what do you think about the Illuminati?" we might have like a fabulous conversation. I have no idea.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Maybe she's going to listen to this podcast and be like, "Sister, you have been withholding so much from me."
she's like, I've been trying to figure out how to tell you about the Nephilim.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. That's amazing. So now, so you mentioned you guys have a really great relationship, but when was the last time you saw her?
Ah, man. The last time I saw her was, man, it was okay. We just turned 29. I think the last time I saw her was like August of last year. It's been a while.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Because I think when we spoke, it had been a while since then as well.
Yeah.
So Okay, well that's just it's just
Oh wait, no, I saw her May of 2016. She came for my graduation.
oh,
So
there you go. What a nice
yeah,
sissy.
yeah, she's great.
Nice. Well, now here's another really important question. Do you guys have twin cats?
We do not have twin cats. I don't think she has any pets, actually.
Hmm. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that's good to know. We're just putting
yeah.
your sister on blast here. Um, all right. Well, man, I'm trying to like think of a great segue to move into another category, but I don't think it's even possible. Um, Here's another question. Are you going to send her this episode? Not just because we talked about it, but maybe it'd be like an easy way to be like, oh, by the way, I'm a crazy person who believes in conspiracy theories. And also I told our wonderful story on this podcast.
I think I'm going to send it to her and just see what she does with it.
All right. Well, hopefully it goes well. Kim is her name?
Kim,
Kim.
yes.
All right. Hi, Kim. You're famous now.
Podcast famous.
Podcast famous. Thank you for that stipulation, Stacey.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, before I move on, is there anything else you want to share on your heart about that?
No, she for me is an answer to prayer
Yeah.
and really grateful that the Lord sent me her. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Ever since I heard that story, I've kind of been waiting for my parents to tell me I have a twin. It hasn't happened yet, but I would not be surprised.
Or maybe it'll be like that show Orphan Black. Have you ever seen that
Never
show?
seen it.
Well, like you'll have like there'll be like 20 Basils and you have no idea they exist, and then you'll meet all of them at once.
What? Are- Now is this through like they were all popped out at the same time, or are they genetically engineered Basils?
They were genetically engineered Basils.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised whatsoever if the government had collected my DNA somehow and
Yeah.
we're just pumping out a bunch of Basils, an army of Basils.
I mean, if I remember correctly, you have really nice hair, so
Oh, thank you.
you're you're welcome.
Yeah, they're using me for my hair. It's like Zoolander. We we must make more of him so he can infiltrate the male hair modeling industry and use him as an assassin.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So, are you a happy girl?
Am I a happy girl? I
Yeah.
would say I'm a happy
Like,
happy girl. Yeah.
tell me about you a little bit. Like, obviously, we've had a chance to learn about you for a little while here, but
Mhm.
as far as I would describe you as a happy girl from what I've learned about you. But here's
Mhm.
also what I know. You gotta watch out for the happy ones.
um I don't know why we need to watch out for the happy ones.
They're
But
dangerous.
they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So let me elaborate a little bit more. When a lot of times when people have sort of I mean, your career and seems like your interests, I mean, is very much help the world, help education, help children, help people, help
mhm.
young adults, make the world a better place. Does this stem from like obviously a concern, but what is that? What is your motivation there?
I this is a really great question, and I'm going to try to give a good answer.
Okay.
So I when I was a kid, I I think this is just how the Lord has made me, because I remember being a kid and always being kind of like the mother hen of the class. I remember my teacher specifically using that term in like, parent teacher conferences, is like Stacy is the mother hen of our class. Like
Hmm.
I think I always had that mentality of I wanted to help and care for other people, but I do think that that stems from just a lot of my upbringing and, both of my parents, my biological parents had a lot of like personal issues and I was kind of like forced in a lot of ways to kind of like take care of my brother and be the responsible one, even at like a young age of like first grade. And so I think that, just because I had that from an early age, that I just have always been that way. I've always been somebody who people see as responsible and I really do truly think that I've had a lot of childhood trauma of a lot of bad things that have happened to me personally, and I really feel like the Lord has totally pressed upon my heart to help people who are hurting.
Mm.
I remember in my interview for my current job, one of the students, they interviewed me and they were like, why do you want to have this job? And I said, I was like, I really believe that the world is full of people who are hurting and I want to be somebody who helps them. And I feel like even though I've had a lot of suffering in my life, the Lord has given me so much joy and happiness, and He just really wants me to be a light that shines through despite all of that darkness. And I want to be somebody who comes alongside people and shows them like, hey, like you're going through some heavy stuff, but here's how you can be joyful. Here's how we can figure out how to work through all of that. And so I really think it's who the Lord has created me to be.
Wow. That's really amazing. Now, you've mentioned a few times about your parents and sort of your past there, and I want you to know you don't have to tell me anything. You don't have to tell anybody anything. And in fact, we can even cut out me answering this question or me asking this question if you'd like.
Okay.
But you are such a happy person and you are so good and you want to help people, and it's just such a gem, especially in this world today, and to be able to do it with a kindness and with no anger attached, as from what I've experienced from you. And obviously the conditions surrounding the separation of you and your twin does speak a little bit to maybe what the situation was going on in your family at the time. Is that, and I see that it's a very influential force in your life. And so I don't want to ask you to go too deep into anything, but would there be anything you want to speak into that or share a little bit of that? Perhaps it could help somebody out there.
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's something this is resurfaced for me right now. I am, pretty joyful and happy, but I did notice that recently an emotion that I was kind of experiencing was anger. And I kind of have said I need to seek out counseling for that because I'm like, I don't understand why I have anger, and it's something I want to work through and process in a healthy way. So I would say, just kind of in general terms, my parents were just really terrible alcoholics, and my father was also just really heavily into drugs. And, for both of them, that kind of led to a lot of neglect for me and my other sibling, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Their addictions kind of were the things that they took control of their lives. That was their priority. And so, that led to a lot of poverty and just a lot of them choosing to do things that were not, I just wasn't, my brother and I were not a priority. We would be left home alone or taken to like places where kids should not be allowed to go and things like that. And so, and also too, just like a complete cutoff, like from our parents, like we didn't have, I kind of feel like for a large part of my life, I didn't have parents that were loving towards me.
Wow.
Or really truly cared about me. And so, so I would say that, and that's, I'm processing through a lot of those things right now because I'm learning that, because of those, the non-existing relationship I had with my parents, it's affecting my relationship with the Lord. It's affecting my relationships with just like my close friends and learning how to be intimate with people. And, I sometimes I get really anxious, and, it's like all of that trauma has really played a role in just a lot of my like fears and my anxiety and doubts and things like that I'm experiencing right now. And the Lord's doing a really great healing work in my life, and I'm really grateful for the process that He is walking me through right now.
Yeah. And, it's referred to a lot when people have situations with their parents or with their father or mother or both, that it does have an effect on their relationship with God, and not just, in process once you choose to have a relationship with Him, but even coming to meet Him in the first place, and to work through that. And just the concept of God sort of as a parent a lot of times will kind of be some red tape as far as coming to know Him. What is like, how did that even happen? I'm having a hard time believing that your parents brought you to church every Sunday. So what was that journey like?
So my parents did not take me to church every week at all.
Which is, I gotta say, and please, understand me when I say this, it's kind of refreshing for this show a little bit, because it's like, I think every person so far in this new vision has grown up in the church. And so to have another story here, I'm very interested in.
So when I was in 5th grade, I was actually taken out of the care of my parents, and I was given over to my aunt, who became my legal guardian. And my aunt had some children of her own, and they were not like my parents at all. They were a lot more healthy. And my cousin, Erin, she's a girl, her and I would share a room. And I remember there were a lot of times when I would be like just in tears, because I was just really upset, because I missed my parents, just being in a new environment and being taken away from them. I was just really confused by what was happening. And I remember she actually taught me the Lord's Prayer. And so I would do that with her. And, she was...
Was she your age, or?
She's 4 years younger.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was like super interesting. So, she taught me that, and she would just kind of say like, like maybe you can try praying to God. And I was like, I don't really know what that looks like. And so she taught me just how to pray. And so for a really long time, I did that when I would be upset. And, in a lot of ways, I had a lot of fear about God and Christians, because I just thought, oh, it's all just like boring and it's stupid and it doesn't apply to me really, even though I was like praying. And so I just kind of had like, I went to God when I needed Him, when I was sad.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, I was a sophomore, and I had this friend who invited me to this group called Young Life. And they are a high school ministry group, still in existence to this day.
It's a classic.
And it is a classic. And so she invited me to it. And the way that she described it was like, oh, like you should come to this like Christian group with me. Like we sing songs and we play games and we have like a really great time. We talk about God. And in my head, Basil, this is what I thought. We're downstairs in someone's basement playing Monopoly, listening to like Christian radio, and we're just like hanging out. And it sounded in my head, it sounded really crazy. And I was just like, I'm not that. Like, that sounds awful. But the girl that invited me, I really wanted to be a good friend to her. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go. And I went and I loved it. Like, Young Life is notorious for being a little wild and crazy and really trying to meet high school students where they're at. And I really, I loved it. I went for about 8 months, I believe.
Yeah.
And went to one of their summer camps in Colorado. I really wanted to go because I was having so much fun. I had developed a really great relationship with the leaders. And I was drawn to it because I really felt like for the first time in my life, I was I met adults who really, really, truly cared about me and loved me for me.
Wow.
And so that's why I just was so drawn to it. And I went to their summer camp in Colorado, and every night at the camp, the one of the guys, the same guy every night would go and he would, share little bits of the gospel. And there was just one night, Basil, where he just got up on the stage, and all I remember him saying was that there is a God who loves you so much that he died for you. And that's literally all I needed, was to know that somebody loved me so much that they died for me. And I just was like, I would be a fool right now to say no to
Wow.
God.
Wow.
And so I said yes to him, and the leaders discipled me like for 2 years while I was still in high school. And so yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like the Lord used my brokenness to draw me to him, and like he still is doing that. It's like, I love you, you're broken, come to me. And that's just what he keeps telling me over and over again.
Wow. That's really powerful. That's
Yeah.
really, really powerful, especially coming from a long line of I grew up in Sunday school stories, which, have their own power, but that's just really amazing, the whole journey that that he's brought you on. And because I can see how it would be really difficult to come to terms with God as a parent, or as a parent figure. But it does. I don't even know if it sounds like that's what it was presented to you as. It was.
Yeah.
It seems like a real true gospel message without trying to do some acrobatics to get it to a place that you could accept it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't need like any like persuasion or of like, oh, look at how cool God is or anything like that. It was just simply the fact that he loves me. And it wasn't, like God is your father and he loves you. And I mean, that's definitely been like a topic that I've like struggled with, is like God is my father. But yeah, when in that moment, that wasn't my focus. My focus was just thinking of how much he loved me and how much he wanted to be in a relationship with me, that he sent his son for me. And yeah, that's all I needed. I didn't need anything else.
Do you think that experience and meeting God in general, do you think it kind of set your life on a new path? Where do you think you'd be if that hadn't happened? And I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'd be on the streets, but Jesus came and got me. But sometimes, I think it's a healthy exercise to try to visualize where things would be without him, not even just in a physical way, but even in a spiritual or an emotional way.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I was in high school, and so I guess I wasn't really thinking too much far in the future. I think one thing that I did a lot was I did a lot of like people pleasing, and a lot just trying to find my satisfaction in just school in general, or like clubs, and really just like pushing myself and trying to find my self-worth in those things. So I think I could see myself just continually trying to find my self-worth in those things. I mean, I was definitely like an empty teenager, like I'm doing all of these things and I'm not really getting the satisfaction. And so I feel like if I didn't meet him, I probably would still have a lot of that same mentality. Or sometimes too, I mean, I feel like just knowing who I am, maybe more in my 20s, I think I would have found my satisfaction in like boys, or, kind of that partyish kind of lifestyle, taking after my parents a little bit.
Right.
So I can see myself, I could, yeah. And, I mean, I haven't been there fully, but I know that does not bring any form of satisfaction. But if I didn't have the Lord, I could see myself just completely, just deep in that.
Looking for other answers, other sources.
Yeah.
Well, that's
totally.
really awesome. I'm really just touched by that story. So thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome, Basil.
You're the best. Okay, so now as we hit the end stretch here, I need to know, do you have any pets?
I've been waiting to answer this question for
I
so
know.
long.
I know. I've been holding off. I could sense your eagerness.
Okay, so I have fish.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Which, by the way, for me, this is like a really cool story. So, over this past summer, I worked at a summer camp. I was the science camp director,
Ooh.
and I came up with like literally the best plan ever to make my campers happy. And I was like, I'm going to buy 5 fish for our classroom. 5.
Nice.
And they're going to feed them, they're going to take care of them, everything. Well, by the end of the summer, I was like, what am I going to do with all these fish? So
You just dug yourself a hole of fish.
I did. So I gave some of them away and I kept 2 for myself.
Uh-huh.
Their names are Calvin and Hobbs.
Nice.
And then,
Classic.
yes, I have a blue beta fish named Faye after Tina Fey.
Hmm.
And floating, or
I
not
bet
floating,
she's a
but
hilarious fish.
she's so funny. And then I have a snail named Polar after Amy Polar.
Oh, man. You really are a park and rec head.
I am totally.
Nice.
Yes.
All about those
Um,
lady comedians.
oh yeah, totally. But I really like some of the male ones also.
Okay.
Um,
What kind of fish are the fish that made it back from science camp?
they're just like some tropical ones. I don't know.
Just tropical. They're the tropical genus.
I'm just so impressed that they're still living because they literally cost me $1.50 each. And they're still just chilling in the water. I don't know.
Well,
They're
you
they're
know,
doing great.
your fish are just still chilling in the water. That's good.
Yeah.
One of my favorite conspiracies is the pet store fish conspiracy, where they're all bred to die like in a week.
Yes, that's what I was like led to believe,
I
and
am
I'm just
more convinced of that conspiracy than any other.
yeah.
But yours are
That's amazing.
still alive, so you might be poking holes in my theory here.
I am. Yes, I am.
Or you're just really good. Okay, so you got 2 fish, two tropical two tropical fish, one
Beta fish.
beta fish, and 1 snail.
Yes.
Okay.
But I also am currently taking care of a pet rat named
Whoa.
Patches.
Are you
Yeah,
rat sitting?
I am rat sitting.
You know what? I'm going to say this. I have had rats. I've had 2 rats. I don't even remember their names. I was young. I've had a number of different pets. I did have rats. I know they didn't last very long. I think I don't think they died. I think mommy just sort of like sold them or gave them away or something out from under my nose. But not the worst pets. I gotta
No.
say that not the worst pets to have.
Mm-hmm. It's for one of my roommates who just at the current moment can't take care of her.
Hmm.
But again, her name is Patches. She eats frozen peas. I fed her bacon last week,
Whoa,
and
that's kind of weird. Is that allowed?
totally, she can totally eat human food. I made her scrambled eggs recently. She
That
loves.
sounds like the most fun part of having a rat is just cooking delicious gourmet breakfast foods.
Oh, totally, yeah. And
Wow.
she also really loves chicken legs, like the bone. She like will eat through the bone.
Okay, so I was on board until that part. That kind of, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It kind of sounds a little morbid, that part.
How?
Do you fear you're training her to completely devour your body in case of an emergency?
No, I do not because I look at her when she's all, cozied up and under her little hut in her little bandana, and she's just super cute.
Yeah, that's how they get you. That's how they get you.
True.
Has Patches met any of the fish? Because rats are pretty good swimmers.
Oh, I do not even want to try.
Okay, all right. That's fine. I get it.
Just
I
she's
don't.
not my pet, so I don't want to kill her.
Not all my ideas are grade A. Um, so you got a bunch of little tiny animals.
I do.
Not a lot of girth on those ones.
No, I mean, in the house that I live in right now, two of my roommates each have a cat. So we
Hmm.
do have some cats roaming around. One of them, her name is Tuna. She's my friend. I love her.
That's adorable. Real quick,
Yeah.
how are you defending 3 fish, a snail, and a rat from an army of cats in your house? This sounds like a really dangerous situation.
Well, Patches, like the way her cage is like, I mean, she has a pretty big like tank that she's in with like a top that latches, so there's
Okay.
no cats are getting in there.
That's true. Cats have yet to figure out latches.
It's true.
Dummies.
The day they do, we're all in trouble. So the fish, on the other hand, have been a little tricky. So Tuna has never, come into my room and put her face over by the fish.
Uh-huh.
But the other cat in our house, her name is Sprout. I have walked in so many times with her face inside with her little paw just looking to find some fish. So,
Just probing, just a little cat paw probe,
yep, just a
looking for
little
the
probe.
fishies.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll keep all your fish in prayer.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll try not to call Pet Protection Services quite yet, but that is a dangerous situation. But I believe that you're responsible enough to manage this geopolitically hot situation, cross-species domination war that you have going on in your house.
It's preparation for me as the future leader of the United States.
That's true. You're just making peace. You're the fish shall lay down with the cat. The rat shall lay down with the snail. And okay, I get it. I'm tracking now.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you're going to have to send me pictures of all these things so I can put it on the thumbnail art.
I will do that. Yes.
Okay, good. All these things. I called your pets things. I hope that's okay.
That's okay.
So what? Do you have any plans for pets in the future?
I mean, in an ideal world, Basil, I could have a pet penguin.
That would be ideal. I will give you that.
But I just, unless I want my house to turn into like a giant iceberg, that won't happen.
Is that legal? I need to squash something that you just said. Penguins don't need an iceberg to live, Stacey.
Okay.
But that being said, I'm pretty sure it's illegal to have a penguin for a pet.
I think so too. I think they're supposed to be out in the wild or the zoo.
The wild or the zoo?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. What would you name your penguin if you had one?
Man, what would I name my penguin if I had one? I don't know. That's a great question.
It's a pretty obvious answer.
What's the answer?
It's Basil. You would name, of course. My whole life is spent trying to get people to name their children or their pets after me.
Do you want me to name it? I can go buy a new fish and name it after you.
I mean, I think we all know the answer to that. You should absolutely do that. I don't want to pressure you to put that on record, but yes, absolutely do that.
All right, sounds good. I'll go to the fish store later this week.
Okay, all right. I'm going to be tracking. It's going to be Fish Watch. We're going to be tracking this story.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now, the listeners of this show probably wouldn't care, but I have an imaginary audience that is forcing me to ask you about, taking care of that bod. Are you an exerciser / juicer, or are you kind of like John from the other episode, kind of just do the pizza thing? What's your deal? Because let me preface with this. I'm not at my best right now. I have kind of been slacking on everything, kind of not feeling like I'm living at the top of my game. So this is really stemming from me trying to inspire myself.
Okay. So
Inspire
currently,
me.
I am training for a 10K.
Oh my gosh, this is it. This is the
Yeah.
inspiration I've been looking for.
Yep.
All right, continue.
Yeah, I have a 10K coming up. It's the first weekend of May. So, I mean, I'm a
10K,
little,
10K,
yeah,
that's 10,000 miles.
yes, in case I knew. I'm planning on running to
A
like
rat.
Peru or yeah, I don't know how far 10,000 miles is.
Yeah, I think Peru. I think you'd make it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So I'm doing that. I mean, I love going to the gym. I love like weightlifting. I love eating healthy. I'm not really into juicing. I prefer smoothies.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah, got to get the fiber.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I love eating healthy. I love exercising. It's definitely, especially too with preparing for this 10K, I'm learning how to like better take care of yourself when you're working out, like making sure you eat enough and sleep enough and drink enough water but also too how great I feel at the end of like running 4 miles. It's like, dang, look at me.
Like, I know the feeling. I felt the feeling. I just have not been able to, like, force myself into getting up and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Will you give me a pep talk?
All right.
All right.
Basil.
Yeah.
You can do it. You need to get off the couch,
Oh,
throw those potato chips to the side,
I
get
love
up,
them.
put on your gym shoes,
Oh,
put on those gym shorts, put on deodorant,
that's so
get
many
up,
steps.
get out.
It's too many steps.
Do you need me to start over?
No, you can just I'm helping you out.
Oh,
I'm helping you helping me.
okay.
Okay.
For the future pep talk.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
got this, Basil.
Thank
You
you.
got it. You're welcome.
All right, I'm feeling good. I feel good now. I think I
Yeah?
can do it. I'm going to go right now. Here I go. I did it.
You did it. Awesome.
I did it. I don't know why I actually had to stand up for that. I could have faked it, but I was just feeling so pumped. I actually did.
Perfect.
So that was the first time I've stood up today. All right. Well, thank you so much. Now, we're getting around that 2-hour mark. Is there anything that's been burning on your heart that, like, when you were thinking about coming on the show, a lot of people have a game plan, and you know, that has its own benefits and consequences. Do you have a game plan? Was there something you were just really wanting to share or talk about?
The only thing that I want the world to know, Basil, is how amazing plantain chips are.
What? Plantain chips?
Yeah.
Oh, they're like banana chips.
But
what is the difference between a plantain and a banana?
So, I believe so they're very similar. They're both kind of like starchy. They're both sweet. But plantain chips are different than banana chips because they're actually like not sweet. They're like kind of like salty. It's like a savory.
Oh, more of a savory what am I trying to say? Treat.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
So
now, is it so different that if you put plantain chip? Okay, let me paint you a picture. We're at a party. Is a little bit of potluck situation. You had to bring a snack. You brought plantain chips. You put them in a bowl. You put the bowl on the table. Now, are people walking up to the bowl, going like, oh, what a thoughtful, healthy snack somebody brought. I'm gonna eat some of these banana chips. They reach in, they take a banana chip, they eat it, but it's not sweet. It's not that sweet banana flavor they're looking for. It's a plantain chip. Are they disappointed? Are they gonna be? Is it like, oh no, what is this? Or are they like, oh, this was unexpected. This is an unexpected delight.
I think they're going to think it's an unexpected delight. I mean, plantain chips are great with like any party dip, guacamole, onion dip.
Wow,
salsa.
So you could take it all the way to like onion dip.
Yeah, totally. And they're great.
I think you may have solved one of my biggest problems. I gotta say, I love potato chips. I mean, I think everybody loves potato chips. They're made to be loved. Kind of like I feel the love for potato chips, for every potato chip, every brand, every chip in the bag, whether it's burnt or crushed or at the bottom, or one of the like weird ones that's translucent with grease.
Ooh, yeah.
I feel the way about potato chips I believe that God the Father feels about all his little children around the world. And there's nothing that they can do to make me love them any less. So I'm going to have to try out the plantain chip.
Yeah.
Is this a readily available snack?
So they definitely sell them at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
Or Whole Foods. I think the ones at Whole Foods are actually a little bit better. And they also have them in bulk there. But again, like I love potato chips probably as much as you do. And I mean, if you overeat anything, how healthy is it? So
yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you, but it's a step in the right direction.
I think so.
Well, I am very, very grateful to you for telling me about that, and I think it's really going to help turn this ship around.
I think so. Yeah, you're gonna be like, I ate all those plantain chips. Now I want to go run.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'll give an update. We'll have the plantain. See, that's what I was afraid of. Saying the word plantation instead of plantain. But yeah, we'll have a plantain update. So look forward to that, everybody.
Perfect.
Well, Stacey K, thank you so much for coming on the show, my girl. This was great, welcome. And I'm glad this was actually just really fantastic. I want to let you know how happy I am with this conversation that we had. Not just because of its marketability, but because I think it's really it's been really valuable to me, and I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I had so much fun.
You're welcome, and thank you for sharing. And make sure to send pictures of your little fishy friends and your snail friend and the rat. We can put her in there too. Okay. But thank you so much, and there you go, listeners. You're welcome. Say you're welcome, Stacey.
You're welcome.
There we go. We did it. That's the episode. Again, hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I surely did. Hey, if you haven't rated us on iTunes yet, you should go to the Joyspiracy Theory on iTunes, leave a rating and a review. A rating, you know this, it's stars, 1 through 5. 4? 5. I think I said 4 last time, but it's 5. And, 1 would be like 1 star. Let's see, a 1-star situation. You walk out into a pasture, a beautiful pasture, and there's cows, and they're mewing. Cows mewing out in the field, and then you step in a cow patty, and then you slip, and then a cow comes over and mews in your face, and then that's it. That's a 1 star. Just slipping in a cow patty. Not nice. 5-star is you're in the same field and there's cows and they're meowing, not just mooing. They're meowing like cute little cats. And one comes over to you and you pet it, and then he says meow meow, and then he's telling you to get on his back. You get on the cow's back and he gallops through the pasture, and you're now the meowing cow rider. That's a 5-star, so go do that. A review is words, and you just tell us that story. Tell us that wonderful meowing cow story in the field. But if you've already done that and you haven't liked our Facebook yet, you should go do that. You can keep up on all the Joyspiracy news, see cute pictures, watch some cartoons. It's a great time. If you are on YouTube, give us one of those thumbs up. It's good time. But even more important than that, everybody, you really should just share this with a friend. Send this episode to a friend who you know will benefit and just have a good time. That's the best way to really spread the word about the show and help out the world. So go ahead and do that. Now, just a reminder, Patreon.com/thejoyspiracy theory. You can go there if you are feeling called and led to support the Joyspiracy theory financially. You will get bonus content, just a beautiful conversation I had with Gon Shimura about his new baby and how it's going to survive in the apocalypse. So, and I think I'm going to keep doing it throughout his fatherdom. I'm just going to keep releasing more. Anyways, make sure to be a happy person or else you'll be sad.